It's Southeast Virginia that's taking the beating this morning from Bonnie, which is now a hurricane once again. These overnight pictures are from Virginia Beach, where torrential rain and winds gusting as high as 60 miles an hour continued there this morning as Bonnie moves slowly towards the northeast. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us here at the Weather Channel on this Friday morning. I'm Bruce Edwards in the Weather Channel Forecast Center as we continue to monitor Bonnie, which shows a very slow movement once again. To reiterate, Bonnie, of course, made landfall Wednesday afternoon around Cape Fear, North Carolina. Was downgraded at about 11 a.m. yesterday morning to a tropical storm over eastern North Carolina, then emerged out over the ocean by 11 p.m. last night, was upgraded again to a hurricane, a minimal hurricane, but a hurricane nonetheless. And as of the 5 a.m. update from the National Hurricane Center, Bonnie was centered at 36.5 north, 74.7 west, or approximately 110 miles south-southeast of Wallops Island, Virginia. Top sustained winds, again, minimal hurricane strength at 75 miles an hour. It continues to move to the northeast at 8, central pressure at 990 millibars. Now, there are no hurricane warnings out or anything like that, just tropical storm warnings now from Ocracoke Island to North Carolina, all the way up the mid and northeast Atlantic seaboard, including Long Island Sound, out to Cape Cod, all the way up to Plymouth, Massachusetts. So from Ocracoke, North Carolina to Plymouth, Massachusetts, tropical storm warnings are presently in effect. Now, there are also flash flood watches in effect, flood watches from southern parts of New Jersey through a good chunk of Delaware and eastern portions of Maryland, as the rain and the wind will help pile it up and could cause some localized flooding throughout the course of the morning and on into the afternoon hours. Now, in Norfolk, Virginia, we have Steve Stone, a reporter for the Virginia Pilot newspaper, again this morning. Good morning, Steve. As things are brightening a little bit, how's the conditions there this morning?
Well, we're still getting some strong winds and some rain down at the ocean front, and there's another line of this storm that looks like it's coming into us, so it's still not out of here. We wish it would get out of here. It is first light. The cities are getting ready to send assessment teams out and start looking at the damage, which is rather widespread, largely trees down along the ocean front. The resort strip of Virginia Beach, a 42-block stretch of that has been sealed off by the police. They have extensive glass damage and some structural damage to buildings down there. It's not something that can't be repaired in a few days or few weeks, but this morning it's a real mess out there.
Now, what's the situation as far as the kids are concerned now? Have schools started and begun in Virginia Beach and the surrounding communities? And if so, do they have class today?
The Hampton Roads public schools don't open until after the Labor Day holiday. The schools, the public schools in North Carolina, northeast North Carolina, a lot of those that were supposed to open are either opening late or not opening today. And most of the private schools in the area are closed and canceling classes and events. Some of the universities are opening late. It's a question of what areas have power and what don't. Right now, that's the big problem in this whole area. We still have about 250,000 utility customers that are without power. The utility companies bringing in extra crews from way outside the area to try and put the power grid back together, but they're warning that many people will be without electricity for a couple days, and that's already presented a problem. We've already had a fire this morning in one apartment building that somebody was using candles, and authorities are trying to get the word out to people to be careful about how they're lighting their homes this morning.
All right, thank you. Steve Stone from the Virginia Pilot newspaper in Norfolk, Virginia. Thanks for that report and update on conditions down along the coast. Dr. Steve Lyons now joins us once again, and Bonnie refuses to go and go quietly. Once again, it's resurrected up to hurricane status.
That's right. Right now, luckily, we have only tropical storm warnings along the coast. Most of the hurricane-force winds are offshore or above the ground. But that does not mean you can't experience hurricane-force winds on the coast in those heavy rain squalls.
Now, is Bonnie likely to gain strength now that it's over the ocean again?
It looks like it's going to start to accelerate rather slowly up along the eastern seaboard the next 12 to 24 hours, and we don't think it's going to gain any strength.
Well, Bonnie produced a fair amount of rain as we look at some of the rainfall totals, ranging from over 11¼ inches at Jacksonville, North Carolina, Norfolk's Naval Air Station. So far, 3 inches of rain, just over 3 inches, but it could have been a lot worse.
That's right. I mean, those people that are in Jacksonville, North Carolina, think that at 11 inches, some people I'm sure had some significant flooding, same in Wilmington, but a more typical hurricane could have produced rainfall amounts for that time interval sitting over North Carolina as high as 20 inches or more. similar to what Texas experienced just a few days ago.
That's right, with Charlie, indeed. And an additional inch to 2 inches of rain is quite likely, and it'll expand up along the northeast coast as the day progresses. Here's the latest radar out of Norfolk, Virginia.
Right. You can see the circulation center now is roughly there offshore, and the strongest winds are on the northeast side over in this area here. Although in this rain band here, you're still getting some pretty gusty winds, and we've seen some gusts as high as about 40 miles an hour the last hour in this general area. And the track has been very slowly this way, and we expect it to generally turn up the coast and start to accelerate later today.
Again, here's a different perspective from the northeast quarter, and we see a line of thunderstorms south of Long Island, New York.
This is rather typical of tropical cyclones, where you start to see bands that form out ahead, and some of them are starting to come on shore. Of course, there's some rain there already, but here's the first band, another one here. And in some of these, there could be some severe weather, and this may actually be more potent locally than this band in here, because of those, you can see some of the yellow and orange areas there that could be very strong thunderstorms.
Well, right under the Y there in New York, that's where the Weather Channel's Mike Seidel is stationed at Long Beach, New York. Good morning, Mike. How are conditions out on the island this morning?
Good morning, Bruce. Pretty decent morning out here on the beach here, South Shore, Long Island. We're awaiting the effects of Tropical Storm Bonnie, and as you can see down the old boardwalk here, locals are taking the storm with really not much concern at this point. They're out here for the morning jog, the morning bike ride. The worst of Bonnie, the effects will not occur until this evening and overnight tonight. And the farther out on Long Island you go, through Nassau out into Suffolk County, the higher risk you have of stronger winds and heavier rainfalls, and the risk of some flooding, even some coastal flooding. So again, the farther east and south you go from New York City, the worse the weather will be this evening and tonight. Today we'll have a few showers around, and some of you out there in Westchester and Rockland counties may not get any rain at all. It's going to be a fine line between the storm's effects and just some breezes. We'll keep you posted throughout the day here from Long Beach, New York. Back to you, Bruce.
All right, thanks very much, Mike Seidel, reporting live from Long Beach, New York, out on Long Island. Once again, we look with Dr. Lyons at the radar out of Norfolk, Virginia. Some heavier amounts. I mean, we've seen rainfall totals across the region, as we mentioned, about 3.1 at the Norfolk Naval Air Station so far, and about 2.5 at the Norfolk Airport, and about an inch or so as you work up towards Patrick Henry Field. So the amounts vary, but not extremely heavy.
Not extreme. Some local flooding is quite possible. The positive thing about the acceleration to the north, if and when it actually happens, is that the west side of the storm will be weaker, or I should say hurricane will be weaker than the east side, and will continue to be that way the faster it moves. So it's better off if it starts to accelerate to the northeast. The winds on the land side will be weaker, and the potential for flooding will be much less.
Well, we will get rid of Bonnie eventually, and then what about Danielle?
Well, we've been monitoring Danielle and tracking the course. You can see by this frame here, it's been moving to the west-northwest very steadily. It was moving a little faster, still moving 17. And that track is really not going to change much the next 36 to 48 hours, we don't think. And the positive thing about this is that the low-level and upper-level winds are roughly in the same direction, so the track direction forecast is relatively easy at this stage of the game, and almost all of the numerical models converge on that location and put the circulation somewhere in a cone or a circle roughly in that area in about 72 hours. So at the present time, you cannot rule out South Florida, but if those models, all those models are accurate, I think South Florida may be off the hook, but not yet.
Okay, and we'll keep you updated on Danielle as well as Bonnie. Thank you, Dr. Lyons, and thank you for joining us. We'll have continuous updates throughout the course of the morning, and if you head to the office and check us out on the computer, you'll get the latest information as well at weather.com. And now with more about what's going on elsewhere across the country, let's check your forecast with Vivian.
Well, thank you, Bruce. And Dr. Steve Lyons, the latest on Hurricane Bonnie as well as Hurricane Danielle. We have the threat of severe weather today. Already this morning, the national radar shows a line of storms stretching from the central Great Lakes down to the panhandles of Texas and Oklahoma. We've had some pretty heavy rain falling in this area, so if you have travel plans in the nation's midsection, be prepared. You could encounter some wet spots. Eastern Kansas up to northern Illinois Illinois, including the Chicago area. Very heavy rain. All of the expressways coming into the city from the west side. It'll be a slow go for you, so please allow extra time.
And 0.9 financing on Ford Taurus. Use the $1,500 cash back as your down payment and save thousands with low 0.9 financing. But this is a limited time offer only until September 7th. $1,500 cash back, and that's right, and low 0.9 financing on Taurus during factory authorized clearance at your Quality Plus Ford dealer.
If you visit A1 Limousine, the first thing you'll notice is just how big it is. In fact, A1 Limousine is the third largest limousine service in the entire nation. The second thing you'll see is our fleet of over 200 late model vehicles. Inside our headquarters, you'll find state-of-the-art facilities dedicated to ensuring you the service you deserve. These are the things you'll see if you visit A1 Limousine. Of course, you'll never have to, because we'll come to you. A1 Limousine, for people going places.
Weather can really mess up your day, and preparing people for it is our business. Business is good.
Right now, it's your local forecast on the Weather Channel.
This edition of Storm Watch and the Tropical Update are sponsored by the Home Depot. We have the latest on Hurricane Bonnie. As of 5 o'clock this morning Eastern Time, still winds associated 75 miles an hour. It's 110 miles south-southeast of Wallops Island, Virginia. It's moving northeast at 8 miles an hour, so the forward momentum has increased since our last advisory at 2 this morning. The pressure has risen as well, 990 millibars, and there you see the coordinates if you are plotting with us. If you can notice, the eye of the storm has just pushed offshore, so back into the open waters. You know, yesterday Hurricane Bonnie was temporarily downgraded to a tropical storm as it came ashore, but now that it has moved back over open waters, we've had a temporary strengthening trend with the system, and thus its back a hurricane is expected to become a tropical storm later this afternoon as it continues to hug the coast, but it'll be moving into cooler waters. Nevertheless, tropical storm warnings remain in effect for the coastal areas from Ocracoke, North Carolina, all the way to the Plymouth, Massachusetts area off the Cape Cod. This includes the Long Island Sound and the Jersey Shore. Our biggest threat today will be wind-driven rains along the coast of New England. Oh, what a messy go of it. You actually are advised to stay away from the coastal areas because the winds and the rains will make for very dangerous conditions. Norfolk still reporting moderately heavy rain, and the heavy rain has been over the Norfolk area for the last several hours, so I'm sure we've had heavy amounts. As a matter of fact, over 250,000 people are reported without power in southeastern Virginia this morning because of the heavy rain, the downed trees and power lines across the area. Here's a northern vantage point of the radar, which shows a band of showers here breaking apart as they approach the Long Island Sound here, but we have had reports of wet weather near Atlantic City in southern New Jersey. So here's Bonnie, but of course we continue to watch Hurricane Danielle as well as it spins here north of Puerto Rico. It's well north of Puerto Rico at this hour. Let's get a closer look at it from our colored enhanced satellite picture. And here it is, kind of not the best shot, but it does detect some higher thunderstorm cloud tops and some deep convection still associated with it. Now, Danielle has pretty much been on the same course here, still moving west-northwest at 17, and we'll continue to watch it as it could become stronger.
Bonnie regains its hurricane status as it moves offshore, but the Northeast could still feel its impact. For a live update, watch Weather Center after your local forecast.
This program was sponsored by the Home Depot.
We have the how-to clinics where we show the customer how to do the project themselves.
After doing it for the first time, they feel a lot more comfortable with it.
They get involved, they get pumped, they take notes, they come to the Home Depot, they get the products, they're taught how to do it, and they go